In a tragic turn of events, 4 law enforcement officers in North Carolina lost their lives in the line of duty. What started as an attempt to apprehend a suspect quickly turned into a deadly confrontation. Sam Peloche and William Elliott from the North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections, Charlotte Mecklenburg Officer Joshua Eyre, and Deputy U.S. Marshal Thomas Weeks faced gunfire as they approached a house to capture the suspect. Mayor V. Lyles said, "Charlotte won't be defined by this tragedy. We will come together as a community to heal and honor the sacrifice of our fallen heroes." The task force was on a mission to apprehend Terry Clark Hughes Jr., a wanted felon. Hughes, wanted for possession of a firearm by a felon and fleeing to elude in Lincoln County, North Carolina, was the center of the deadly confrontation. When law enforcement attempted to apprehend him, Hughes opened fire from an elevated position within the home. A short pause to our story. If you like our content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It only takes a second and it helps the channel tremendously. This incident underscores the critical need for a closer examination of no-knock raids, which have increasingly proven to have deadly consequences beyond their intended targets. Take, for instance, the case of Brian Malinowski, whose life was tragically lost earlier this year during an ATF raid. Malinowski was suspected of illegal firearm sales, yet crucial details surrounding his death remain obscured, notably due to the absence of body camera footage from any ATF agent involved. Despite this, familiar voices like Hogg and friends are quick to lay blame solely on firearms, conveniently ignoring the systemic issues at play. Can additional laws truly prevent a felon from accessing firearms? It's a perplexing notion. Perhaps it's time for law enforcement to reassess the efficacy and safety of executing no-knock warrants, given their increasingly evident potential for harm outweighing any perceived benefits. In other news related to the Second Amendment, the Biden administration has intensified its efforts to undermine gun manufacturers by converting the temporary export ban into a permanent fixture. On April 26, the Bureau of Industry and Security released an interim final rule solidifying what was supposed to be a 90-day firearm export pause, which has already stretched to 180 days, into permanent policy, while also adding new layers of regulatory complexity. The National Shooting Sports Foundation reacted strongly to this development, denouncing it as part of the Biden administration's broader assault on the firearms industry. Lawrence Keene, NSSF's Senior Vice President and General Counsel, expressed grave concern, stating that the administration's actions are unprecedented in their hostility towards both the industry and Second Amendment rights. Keene highlighted the disingenuous nature of the so-called temporary pause, labeling it a facade designed to facilitate the administration's broader agenda of crippling the firearms industry. He emphasized that this move aligns with President Biden's past rhetoric, where he openly referred to firearms manufacturers as the enemy, signaling a targeted attack on industry fundamental to Americans exercising their Second Amendment rights. Under the final rule, there will be 3 new export control classification numbers for semi-automatic rifles, pistols, and shotguns, with licenses subject to stringent scrutiny based on various risk factors. Notably, there will be a presumption of denial for firearm export licenses to countries labeled as at risk by the State Department, encompassing 36 nations, primarily in Latin America, the Caribbean, and Southeast Asia. Furthermore, all existing firearm export licenses to these high-risk countries will be revoked 60 days after the interim final rule takes effect on May 30th, 2024, necessitating U.S. companies to reapply for new licenses. The NSSF emphasized that this regulatory shift imposes significant burdens on the industry and jeopardizes the ability to compete in the global market. The public has until July 1st to submit comments on the final rule, which exemplifies the Biden administration's concerted efforts to target the lawful firearms industry. From encouraging lawsuits against gun companies to imposing stringent regulations on retailers, the administration has consistently escalated its campaign against a sector deeply ingrained in American history and culture.